think I am a terrible guitar player.
This is actually pretty good for a first-timer.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I mean, this is pretty good for a first-timer.
Yes.
A business generally starts with an idea, but turning that idea into something real, that's the challenge. My name is Baratunde Thurston. Join me as I help share the story of the new face of business around the country. Welcome to Funded.
All right, can you show me where these guitars are, and we'll get into the history of this company.
Yeah, so this was the first prototype that ever built.
This looks like an Italian pasta dish exploded.
I was still at Microsoft, like, working. I would come home at 7, have dinner, and then go into my garage until 4 in the morning.
When do you start thinking beyond, I just hacked this individual thing, to I might want to create more of these?
When I turned on the version with the LEDs in it, I realized that this was an interactive guitar.
Right.
It can detect what you're doing, but it can also show you. That's actually what got me to, quit my job.
Yeah.
Knowing he had something brewing in his parents' Silicon Valley garage, Ian invited his friend Josh to move to California and launch the company. The gTar was born.
This is the first model that ever had the iPhone in it, and we kind of threw that in there partially as a joke.
And by joke, yeah, it was more my mom yelled at me. Because at this point, I was running out of money, and so she said, I'll only help you if you put an iPhone dock in there. And I'm like, Mom, who the hell would put a phone in a guitar? And she said, just do it, and I'll help you. I'm like, whatever.
That's a very bossy investor.
It's like, you do this, or I'm never gonna forgive you. So,
Right.
But after that, every investor meeting we had was like way better.
Yeah.
So like, oh, there's a phone in there?
What were your sources of money to help grow this, especially given your background in Silicon Valley?
For the most part, initially, it was just my personal stuff that I saved up for a while. Can't really trace back the exact network of how I got to our first investor.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. It's actually ended up being Charles Huang, he's the co-founder of Red Octane. They created Guitar Hero.
Oh, that's pretty perfect. All right, I'm holding this gTar, about to rock the gTar. What's the principle here?
So the idea is that the gTar can detect your finger position based on this multi-touch sensor in the fretboard. It's a sort of interactive experience where the gTar can tell the phone what you're doing, and the phone can kind of tell you what to do.
Through the gTar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like training wheels in a way.
Yeah. Gotta let it hang there sometimes, So why did you guys choose crowdfunding as part of your investment mix? You already had investors. What was missing?
We needed to fund the first batch. We needed to make the first 1,000, and that's a really costly upfront thing for us to pay for in advance. One of our investors suggested that we try Kickstarter. It seemed like a really cool idea if you were a band or if you were a filmmaker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't seem like where a startup goes to make a bunch of gadgets. We had been in touch for about a year with John Biggs from TechCrunch, who's a guitar player and was really excited about what we were building. We called John, we said, we're gonna do a Kickstarter campaign. He's like, well, we have Disrupt coming up in a month too. You should sign up for that. Like, you gotta do this. So you gotta be there. We kind of decided, all right, we'll do them at the same time. Basically what it meant is that we had this giant launching pad for the Kickstarter campaign. It wasn't just that we were gonna launch online, but we were gonna be launch online in front of 2,000 people or whatever.
What was it like being in the room when gTar presented?
It's sort of in the middle of this long section of a lot of different startups presenting. I think people kind of get a little tired but then suddenly they took the stage. There's these young kids with this hardware and they were playing the guitar. I think people just kind of perked up and were like, wow, this is not what we've been seeing. This is really cool.
What was your goal on Kickstarter?
So we set a goal for $100,000. We launched it on stage and we had raised about $10,000 before we were off stage. By midnight that night, I was in bed and checked it and we had hit our goal. We ended up at $350,000, which is way more than we ever expected, so that was pretty exciting. I think crowdfunding gives hardware companies the ability to prove popular opinion in a way where everybody wants to get involved once you're already successful. It's like, it democratizes that.
And what's the feeling of exceeding your goal by that much?
I think it got scary afterward, but wow, we had 950 people that we need to go and answer to now.
What is your take as to the trend of crowdfunding and its place in hardware and tech?
We're at that sort of point where I think the first of the really big projects, a lot of them sort of starting to ship or starting to miss ship dates, and I think it's kind of the cliche way to put it, but this is kind of the rubber meets the road section of it.
What are you thinking of doing next as a company?
We've got other hardware in the works that would complement this and would work with all the same software so that perhaps guitar isn't your thing, but there's other instruments out there, and we want you to be
pipe organ.
It's 800 pounds, our next product.
Yeah. Even a company whose founder grew up in Silicon Valley and had access to seed stage investors found a role for crowdfunding when it came time to scale up the dream of making music more accessible. The other thing we've learned is that it's always a good idea to just listen to your mom.
A business generally starts with an idea.
This is the steam chair.
Steam! Oh, this feels so good.
This is a table, a levitating table.
But turning that idea into something real, that's the challenge.
Most new products will fail.
And that's the area that's changing most. You see, it's about more than just a business plan and a loan officer who's friendly at your local bank. Now it starts with a story.